Nicholas John Mazzoni owns NJM Communication, a writing and speaking service dedicated to the strengthening communities and relationships through individual, interpersonal, and intuitive communication in peoples aged 5 and older. He graduated from High Point University in 2011. He studied psychology and English writing. In addition, he has a bachelor's degree in minister certification from the University of Sedona with an emphasis in metaphysical studies. Though he is formally educated, most of his learning has come through personal experiences and extensive reading. He is absolutely fascinated with human consciousness and what humanity can accomplish both collectively and individually with a firm understanding of communication. Nicholas spent the past 10 years traveling the country and living various places in the United States. His experimental travel created profound understanding of the human condition, understandings that continue to evolve and grow. He has had many jobs in his adult life, but finds the most professional satisfaction in speaking and writing. Formerly, Nicholas served as club president in the Toastmaster International Circle, been a host MC at numerous organization events, competed in speaking contests, and been involved with numerous media projects. He has taught hundreds of children environmental education, worked as a behavioral intervention specialist, and is a trusted confidant to many people. Nicholas knows the best is yet to come. He looks forward to the next few years and the massive opportunities they will bring. He lives with his girlfriend Sarah and his dog Joe in Richmond, Virginia. Please welcome Nicholas John Mazzoni.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You know, there's a story that I like. I watched an interview once with Damian Marley. You all know him? He's an excellent artist. He's one of my favorite artists. And in the interview, somebody was asking him, "Hey, Damian, how does it feel to have to live in the shadow of your great father?" And he sat back introspectively. He has a wisdom about him. And he said, and you'll have to forgive my accent, but it helps the story. He said, "Oh, no, man. I'm not in his shadow. I'm on his shoulders, and he's lifting me up. He's lifting me up, man." And I've always loved that. And to be honest with you, that's how I feel right now. I am in the shadow, hopefully on the shoulders, of some really amazing speakers, some very wise people, and I hope to live up to the reality of being here now. So thank you for having me. I would like to talk to you today about communication and communicating our spiritual principles in a secular world. You know, it's tough, right? And honestly, I inspired this to speak on this back in January. I was traveling to Texas to see my family, and I stopped in Memphis, and I saw the last place where Martin Luther King was, and it was at a point in time where I had come to the truth of my desire, and that is to speak, to inspire, as best I can, wherever I can. That's the goal, and I think that's the goal of many people here, which is why I feel very welcome. But as I was in the hotel, I woke up one morning and I got an invitation to apply. And I thought, oh, I know that this is going to work out. So I applied and I became one of the 40 or so speakers that are here today. And that is awesome, right? As I went throughout the next 5 months, though, that was in January. And as I went throughout the next 5 months, I kind of put it on the back burner. I run a business. I'm a handyman. It's fairly successful. So it's hard sometimes to think about the more ethereal parts of life because we're stuck in manna. We're stuck in our day-to-day reality, the things that we have to do to get by, to survive, and hopefully to thrive. And so I put it on the back burner. But I put it on the back burner knowing that in the moment, the inspiration would come. You know, Christ said, "Worry not what you will say, for in the very moment that you need to say it, it will be given to you." It helps to have a little bit of an outline, you know? And so as I was sitting down yesterday, I made one. And so I'm here today. I want to first tell you that I came from a Christian background. I'm a son of a Southern Baptist minister and an Army chaplain. I grew up in a very strict and chaotic and negative, mostly negative environment. And I went to church 3 times a week, and I had moments of enjoying it, but for the most part, I totally rebelled. I was rebellious. And when I turned 18, I left and I went to college, and I started doing what college kids do. What are they? They're basically drunken academics, you know? So I was a drunken academic. And not only drunken, I experimented with drugs and promiscuity and all these things because I was searching. You see, I used these things to kind of test the bounds of my consciousness. And I got to a point where I started to really seek and find things. And I got to a point where I started to have experiences that made me realize that maybe I'm in something that isn't so real or solid after all. Maybe it's something objective and subjective. It's an amalgamation and a mixture of the two. And I went to New Orleans, and I had a profound experience with a guy who my brother knew at the time. He still knows him, named Phil. And Phil was a Tai Chi guy. He was actually very good at it. And he hired me to paint some things. Lo and behold, that was my first experience as a handyman, and now I'm a professional one, which is kind of funny. I didn't put that together until recently. But he handed me an opportunity to learn from him. I just would ask him questions, and he would tell me things, and I really got into talking with Phil. It was like, and he was paying me more than I ever thought that I could make painting a shelf, you know? And he was teaching me. And I woke up from a dream one time, and to put it short, the dream showed itself into the world. It was an experience of a dream of me and Phil in a place with a lot of water. And I woke up from the dream, and I woke up from a phone call from Phil, and he says, he's from Wales, you know, and he's like, hey, Nick, I'm going to I was going to do the accent, but I decided, nah, I probably shouldn't. He said, hey, Nick, I'm going to Mississippi to take care of a house that I have. Will you come with me? And I said, sure, Phil. So I go with him, and the whole day, it's weird. I'm having this really weird battle about my world. And basically, when I got to his house, everything that was happening in my dream was happening at the house. And we go back to New Orleans, and he's like, Nick, you've been quiet. What's wrong? And I say, Phil, I had a dream last night, and everything in it is here now. And he said, oh, okay. He said, today was your induction. The closer you get to your conceptual being, the more your reality will begin to change. We all live in our own reality with the only thing we share being time. That stuck with me forever. Obviously, I know it word for word. And so I took that, and I didn't know what to make of it. And I'm coming to realize that we all really do live in our own reality. And I think that we need to find more of a balance between the subjective and objective nature of reality. See, we're stuck in what they call a Newtonian paradigm. It happened a couple hundred years ago, maybe more, but it's basically linear in thought. It's A to B, B to C, C to Z, to D, or to D to Z, right? And through. But there's more to it. And I think that reality is both objective. We all agree that this is a podium. But what does a podium represent? A podium represents spotlight, subjectivity, right? I want to do an experiment before I continue on this. I want you all for 30 seconds or so to look around you. 20 seconds, look around you and just notice something. One thing in this room is going to stick out to you. So go ahead, just look around. What did you see, Melissa? Is the speaker? Okay. Yeah? Cool. What did you see, ma'am? Anything? The beautiful blonde hair. And what did the woman with the beautiful blonde hair see? Space? Okay. You know what? I saw this carpet. It kind of looks like my shirt. It has a purple hue to it. I'm noticing a lot of purple, but I like the spirals in the design, right? There was an experiment done by a guy named Robert Anton Wilson. He was a psychedelic guy back in the day. And he said to his students, when you come to my class next time, pay attention on your walk to what you see. And so they all paid attention on their walk, and they came in and they all expressed different things. And he says, you see, we all really do live in our own reality. You see, our mind is very interesting in that it holds on to certain things, and as we develop, we kind of stick to totems. We kind of stick to a certain structure of thought. As I grew up Christian. And so a lot of my life is using Christian wisdom. But not everyone grew up Christian. Some people grew up maybe science-based or secular humanist, if you will, if you have to put a label to it. But the one thing that all of these different realities have in common is the basic human qualities. For instance, if you're a humanist, you may not give God the glory, but you believe in the moral propensity of people, and you want to use your talents to make the world more moral and better, right? And if you're a spiritualist, you believe in the God, but you also believe that in the same principles. So let's do some basic principles here, right? So faith, hope, and love. 1 Corinthians, the love chapter, 13, I believe, says, but the greatest of these is love, faith, hope, and love. I want to tell you a story about one time in college. I was having a conversation with the guy about the Book of Eli. I love that movie. And in the movie, Mr. Washington, Eli, was walking through, and I said, my friend, we'll call him Will, I said, Will, I love this movie. I love the faith that guy showed, right? I was all into faith. And he said, why did you like that movie? What is admirable about blind faith? And he shut down because I used a word that wasn't in his daily paradigm. But what if I had said to him, Will, I loved the fortitude of Eli. I loved the perseverance of Eli. I loved the patience that Eli had. It may have connected with him in a better way. Because the principles are the same. If the principles are the same and we get lost in the words, we are limiting ourselves by our definitions. So if I say faith, that means something different to every one of you. But it is the expansion beyond the word, the feeling that it brings in you, that is the meaning. Let's talk about hope, right? Hope. What are some other words for hope? Oh, we have trust in the process, optimism for the future, calm anticipation. All of these things reflect hope. Some people have a really hard time with the concept of hope. They don't like it. I think Jim Carrey said he hates hope. I love Jim Carrey. But he said that hope is a weak word. Why? You know? So if you use the word hope or faith, people might not listen. The point is to get people to listen, to meet them where they are. If you can meet people where they are and you can know your audience, you can adapt your words to suit the person in front of you. Because it's not all about showing everybody that you know really awesome words. If I'm in here, I can have the freedom to talk about metaphysics. I can have the freedom, thanks to Dr. Masters, to talk about my divine being and how I am one with the divine. And I am a single entity of that, expressing itself through this amalgamation, through this bit of energy. But all of you are too. But if I said that to a guy on the street, man, he'd think I would he might think I'm a schizoid, you know? He might. Love. Love is pretty good. Most people are okay with love. but some people have a problem with it. I know if you were to be, I'm a son of the South, right? So if I were to talk to one of my forgive me, my redneck friends, they would say, love, man, that's some hippie stuff, you know, right? They would. But if I were instead to be like, dude, I forgive you, it's all good, I understand where you were coming from. Or if I were to, instead of just speaking and preaching love, act out of service, that's love, right? If I were to say, hey man, I really appreciate that you came here to help me today. I got a bunch of guys, they help me do my contracting work. I'm really grateful for them. But if I get all hippie on them, they're going to think there's something wrong with the boss. There might be. I think also there's a system, right? How am I doing? Okay, great. There's a system that we can all use. A friend of mine has 2 twin boys, and he's a pretty open-minded guy, and he wanted to raise them based off of like, you know, do what thou wilt kind of thing. But as they got around the age of 5 or 6, he started realizing that that was a terrible idea. So he took them to a Jewish school. And he said, because structure is good, it gives somebody something to rebel against later. I loved that. That's me, man. I rebelled against it. But the thing about rebelling, if you are a seeker, is that you come back around with a different view of what it is you originally were born into. So because my mind works in a way that is that has the Christian text in it, it would be really good for me to use a system to express, because I know the Bible really well, so I can use that to share my truths, right? And so it helps if people have a system. I would encourage people to have a system and stick to it until it doesn't work anymore. Because the more that you stick to something and you treat it as truth, the truth of it kind of disappears and fades away. It's like it hides behind a curtain, you know. It goes away, and then sometimes it comes back around. So encourage people to stick to a system. That would be one thing that I really think is important. And you know, the funny thing is, I want to add an aside. Yesterday, I was writing this over a beer. Maybe not very Christian, but I was writing this over a beer, and I was coming up with some ideas, and I randomly flipped. I finally accepted that I am good at speaking on Christian matters. So I randomly flipped to Psalm 173, and you know what it said? I had come to peace, and it said, "Let your hand become my help, for I have chosen your precepts." You see how that works? Everything works for the good of the individual perceiving it. We have to find what works for the person that we're talking with and use it and help them, because the point isn't to win them to our words. The point is to win them to the great idea, the great thing that they are a part of, that we are all a part of, no matter what we say or do, we are. So the goal is to expand collective consciousness. Use the tools at hand too. I'm not saying forsake what you know. I'm just saying realize that you know it and tweak it for the people in front of you. Know your audience. Lastly, I would say encourage people to have a totem. You know, in Inception, when they had like a die or a spin top so that they could tell that they were dreaming, right? Learn to have a totem. A totem brings you back down, rooted into the world when your mind is in the ethereal. It's really good to have a totem. Sometimes I'm too much to the physical, right? And sometimes I'm too in the clouds. And that's a problem sometimes. It can be. The trick is to find the balance, like we find the balance between the subjective and the objective. So have a totem. For me, I happened to discover that I was born at 3:33. And so I always see 3:33 everywhere I go, and I use that. I also see ravens today. I've been really thinking on this. The ravens, I see crows and ravens. They flew across my path everywhere. I was up today at the Cathedral Point, and as I was leaving, I saw the raven in the cracks. And I heard the feeding of the young. I saw the birds, right? So those are my totems. Now, totems can change. You can add to them, but encourage people to have a totem. It doesn't matter what it is. The symbol is a symbol. The symbol is objective with subjective meaning. I want to thank you all very much. And I want to leave with one quote from a guy named Nako from Medicine for the People. It's a band. I love them. Keep this in mind as we all seek to be like the masters. I am no master. I know nothing. But I am a servant, and I know something.